Should I clap us in? Do you want me
Mm,
to intro it? I think I introed it last time, but you're going to do most of the talking anyway, I
yeah,
guess.
you can. Go for it. Sorry.
Why'd you have to do that?
I don't know.
Okay. hmm Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tidbits of Truth. I am your host, Samantha White.
And I am Hope Anderson. I almost said the wrong name.
And you've been married a lot longer than me, so that would be embarrassing. Today, Hope has had her baby recently.
No longer pregnant.
No longer preggo, and we're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, we have to have our classic icebreaker. So
This
I
is for your
selected,
benefit. We have
not
already been
ours.
talking for like 4 hours.
It's been a long day. We haven't talked since she had the baby, so we had a lot to yap about.
But we didn't talk about the birth story.
Yes, I was like, I called her, I was like,
you.
all right, tell me everything. And she's like, I think I'm going to hold it for the podcast. And I was like, okay, then I guess I'll just
Well, I
tell you
want
about my
your
life.
I want your live reaction.
That's true. That's fair.
I want you to be like, I didn't know that for sure. Sure, Samantha has prepared this icebreaker well in advance. We are
I have
excited to share. Choose your
so
own
the first
adventure.
one is out of the people that you personally know, who would you want 3 people for your zombie apocalypse team?
Ooh.
I'm a
I
big
don't know.
zombie post-apocalypse fan, so this one
Okay.
jumped out at me.
I don't know a lot about a zombie apocalypse, like survival strategy. So maybe
Think
you go.
brains, brawn, resources,
Okay.
who's not stupid to get eaten, who's not a liability, who's an asset.
Well, I think I would pick you because you seem like you know a lot about how to live. So, and then I want my husband there because I love him. I feel like we're gonna offend anybody I don't choose.
Don't worry about that. I try to offend people actively. That's how I get around that fear. Just kidding, sort of.
Samantha White 2026.
Add that to your calendar next year.
We didn't make one this year.
Next year.
I was a little bit busy, so we didn't do that.
You were?
It was kind of unacceptable, I know. But who else would I bring? This gonna sound so stupid. What if I'll probably also bring Anna's husband.
He's a big guy. I have seen this husband.
He's
and
super strong, and also I feel like I just happen to feel like he would know. I have a feeling he would know how to survive zombie apocalypse. I think he's watched The Walking Dead. And also, if I could bring Anna, I would as well. But you said I could only choose 3, so
that's the rules. So I would pick
honorable
my husband,
mention.
obviously, for obvious reasons. And then I would also pick, I think, one of my brothers. Could be either one. I'll say the older one for now.
Be offended,
Because
Toby.
he's strong, because he's a guy, and he also both my brothers are good boatsmen, sailors, so they could take us out on the boats and keep us safe out on the boats. So that would be
important.
That'd be important. They would know like any boat resources that we could gather. And then for a third person, I keep thinking my sister, because she is just so confident in herself. She's like, I can't wait for the zombie apocalypse because I'm going to thrive. And I'm like, Deli, you eat carbs and like 300 calories a day, and then you sit at your computer all day. You are going to die immediately. She's like, no.
So you wouldn't choose her?
Listen, I love her to death. If I want to survive, she'd be a good sacrifice. Because she thinks she'd make it, and she's wrong.
Gosh.
so my third person, I think I'm trying to think about who I know. I want to go strength focused. Ooh, let me think about this. I'm suddenly forgetting everyone I've ever met.
I mean, you've met me. I'm pretty strong.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to think of my third person.
Rip.
Hold on, sorry. Why am I actually blanking so hard?
What about my dad?
I thought you were going to pick your dad. I was surprised you didn't.
I've also forgot everybody I've ever known.
I know a guy from, just because I'm struggling to pick a third person, I know one of our new friends from church owns a lot of guns. I know he owns a lot of guns and he hunts. So that would probably be a good pick, actually.
I think I might change my third person from Anna's husband to Anna's dad.
Ooh.
He also has several guns, but also like is a ex-military guy.
That's a good guy.
I feel like he would know.
Yeah.
How to
So,
survive.
okay, so not Anna's husband. He's dead.
Sorry, Anna's husband. He needs to be with Anna.
Yeah, right.
They need to be together. I can't separate them.
Of course not. Let not, what the Lord has brought together, let nothing break.
Although I separated you from your husband, so.
Well, he'll make it.
I could just use my dad and Anna's dad and Eric and then leave you and Anna to be with your husbands. Then you wouldn't have to be separated.
Listen, I think you have better. I'm not promoting myself on your team because I am a woman.
Okay. Women are weak, I guess. You're
Me versus your dad. Let's think about this.
In what kind of context, though?
A fight.
Like a physical fight or a mental fight?
Well, I think in the zombie apocalypse, you're not going to out witty banter the zombies. If you could, you definitely want me on your team. So that was fun. We've kicked it off.
No, I said you off my team.
Oh, yeah.
So that you can be with your husband.
Yes, and you can live.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hope had her baby. Very exciting. She's a very cute baby, and Hope is gonna. I don't know. How do you want to start it off?
I'm gonna tell an abbreviated version of the story of how she was born, and then we're gonna talk about, I don't know, things we learned, things I've learned. You probably know things from being a nanny.
I know some things from being a nanny, and I know some things from Instagram. And when I say I know things, I obviously mean as not a mother myself. So I know, I think that's something you said we're going to touch on is like you can have all the expectations in the world, see everyone else's experiences, and they certainly may be helpful, and it may work out the same way, but many, many, many times it does not.
Yeah, and like some of the advice that I was given, I can talk through later, but like we'll get to that. So okay, so first bit of advice to people is not all babies are born at 40 weeks. And I'm sure everybody kind of already knows that, but like it's such a, for some reason, when you hit 40 weeks, or once you even hit 38 weeks, people are like, when are you going to have that baby? And you're like, they ask you as if like you know the answer to that question. And I'm like, I'm not getting induced, so I don't know the answer to that question. And I would also like to, if I knew, I would tell you, but I don't. So we're just going to be patient about that. And that's a huge like waiting game. And it can get really emotionally taxing just because you have this like deadline of 40 weeks in your mind. And even though you know, like, oh, like baby could come at 42 weeks or 41, it doesn't have to be 40. It could be 39, it could be 38. In general, like that's kind of like a whole month of like time frame where this baby could come.
Yeah, my cousin just had her baby, and her family, there's a history of big babies in that family, and I'm not sure how early she had the one she just had, but I'm pretty sure she's had both of her babies early because they were so big.
Just, that's how it is. And some people go really late and how their body is. So I wasn't really expecting, I was kind of just like once we hit 37 weeks and she was no longer going to be like premature, she was born, I was like, I don't care. Like she can come at any point now. All the stress is gone. Like we are allowed to, like once you hit 37 weeks, you can go to the birth center. If we given birth to her before 37 weeks, we would have to go to a hospital. So I was like, "Great, well, now the birth center will take us. We're good, and we can just wait her out now." And so something else that we did after we hit 40 weeks, I don't remember who told us to do this, but basically you plan something fun to do every single day that you're waiting. So, like, if the baby's not born, you have something to look forward to. So, like, we're like, "Hey, if the baby's not born on by like, tomorrow, if the baby's not born, we're gonna go to this restaurant because they're doing, like, a 2 for 1 deal on, like, wings or something. We're gonna go there. If the baby's not born by Friday, we're gonna go to the zoo and walk around and whatever. And if the baby's not born by this day, then we're gonna, like, have a movie night and play games and stuff." So, like, this is a time, especially with your first baby, this is a time where you really need to, like, take time to enjoy, like, this is the last few days where it's like, we don't have a baby human to take care of in our relationship. Like, things are about to change a lot, and even though you're super pregnant and it's hard to kind of enjoy that time because 'cause you're like, "I feel like I can't move around very well," it's still, like, a good time to just chill, and so we were doing that. Like, every day that the baby wasn't born, we were doing something that we could look forward to so that something exciting and good was happening every day. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, you're just like, "Another day where I'm still pregnant and this baby still isn't here," and, like, you get really impatient because you've, like, been waiting to meet this baby for weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months, and in our case, like, years. Okay, so at, like, 41 weeks, they wanna do what's called a non-stress test. So, that's basically where they hook up a couple monitors to your stomach, and then you can kinda tell they can monitor the baby's heart rate, and they can monitor, like, what contractions you're having. And because, like, leading up to the baby being born, a lot of people have Braxton Hicks contractions, which are just like those practice contractions, which prepares your body for giving birth. And eventually, like, those are supposed to tip into real contractions. And they don't hurt. It just, like, everything gets super duper tight and then this relaxes. And you're just like, oh, you just kind of just notice it as it's happening. Like, oh, I suddenly everything's really tight. Okay, now it's not. So they measure how strong those are, I guess, and we thought my water broke at, like, a day after the 40 weeks. So, like, the day after my due date, I was like, "Oh, here we go." And then we went in, and they were like, "Nope, that wasn't it. It was just, like, it was just, like, some discharge or whatever." Also, like, this episode might be slightly, like, medically TMI. If you're not into that, then don't listen to this episode. Fair warning. But, yeah, so they went in, they're like, "Yeah, that's not amniotic fluid. You're good," which I was actually kind of grateful for because contractions hadn't started. And it's bad if your water breaks and the contractions don't start relatively soon because that just means you're leaking amniotic fluid, the baby is, like, running out of fluid, and then there's no contractions to, like, get things going and get the baby out. So, at that point, they would wanna induce you because it's, like, kinda dangerous.
So what is the purpose then of the can you tell us quickly, like, what is the purpose of the fluid then? Why is it important that the baby not be in there without the fluid?
I think that's just how if they don't have enough of it, they can go into stress or something.
Okay.
Like,
'Cause
it's
there's
not
but, like, the umbilical cord is how
good
they
for
get
them to
their
not have it.
nutrients and oxygen and stuff.
Yeah, but for some reason I don't remember, I guess I never asked specifically why,
Okay.
but I just know that it's not good to not have the fluid. Like, that's really concerning if you're leaking amniotic fluid at any point in your pregnancy and you're not in labor, especially, like, before 37 weeks. Like, that's before 36 weeks. It's just dangerous, I guess. I know, like, my aunt, I think, like, she went in for an appointment, and it was just a normal regular appointment. I think it was, like, her 36-week appointment, I don't know for sure, but they were like, "Your amniotic fluid is, like, draining," basically, or, like, it's, like, super low, like, there's not enough of it, and then she had to have her baby that day. So, it's kind of concerning. So we did that, a non-stress test at that point. So at 41 weeks, this was our second non-stress test, and then so, like, baby liked to move a lot, until we were doing a non-stress test, and then she's like, "Not gonna move." And I'm like, "Great, well, we need you to move because they need to be able to monitor your heart rate having accelerations and going back down just to make sure that, like, you're fine." And they don't, like, let you leave unless, like, that test is, like, passed or complete. So I guess Eric's mom said that he didn't pass that test when he was in the womb, so they, like, induced her. Um, and even though she was like, "He is super active, the baby's super active, like, at night when I'm working, during the day, like, right now, he, like, never moves." and they just didn't listen to her for some reason, and they were like, "Oh, the baby's not moving, we need to get him out." And she was like, "He never moves at this time of day. I think he's fine." So I don't know why that's such a
That
big
makes me
deal,
mad.
but a little bit. After that whole test was over, they're like, "All right, so the unlikely event that you will be pregnant, 3 days from now and 41 weeks and 4 days, then we will talk about natural induction and we'll do another non-stress test, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Okay." So, like, Friday rolls around, it's November 14th, and I'm still pregnant. So we go to the appointment and then they do the test and they're like, "She's all great. Everything is healthy." We also, I think at 41 weeks, we had done another ultrasound too to make sure there was enough fluid and to make sure that she was fine. And yeah, it's like a biophysical, shoot, I forget what the exact thing is called. Biophysical ultrasound scan. I don't know. I totally said it wrong, but basically there's a bunch of stuff that she needs to do to like pass, and she did. So that she was fine. Um, so this day they're like, "All right, she looks fine." They're like, "We're gonna," and they hadn't done any like dilation checks up to this point because it's just kids at risk for infection, and it's also just doesn't really tell you anything. You can go from 0 to 10 really fast and really slow, and it really depends on the person. So they don't usually check. But they're like, "Well, at this point, let's check because if you are 1 centimeter at least, then we can put in this device that could, like, it's like a balloon catheter. So, like, it goes on either side of the cervix and it can dilate you." And they're like, "So if you are at least 1 centimeter dilated, we can put that in. And then 12 hours later, you can drink castor oil to induce." And I was like, "Okay." So they checked and they're like, "So you're like completely closed." And that was really demoralizing because I was almost 42 weeks and I've been doing so much walk, like as much exercise as I possibly could. I was getting to the point where, like, at 35 weeks, I think something happened, like a switch flipped, and all of a sudden I'm like, I can't like, my hips feel like they're constantly being shattered, like, I and my pelvis just feels like it's fractured all the time, and I can't really walk without being in pain most of the time, or at least not long walks, which was really frustrating to me at the time because I even now, because it's like, well, I really wanted to walk every single day up until the baby was born, and then I couldn't do that. And I couldn't even do like more normal workouts because my like pelvis hurt that bad. And it was super frustrating because I'm like, I don't want to just sit around. I really wanted to exercise. So that was one expectation that I had that I just wasn't able to have. Um, so they're like, "Well, you're completely closed, so you can't do this catheter thing, and you also can't take." I wouldn't do the castor oil. And I was like, "Okay." And I was starting to get really, really stressed out because at 42 weeks, they don't let you go to the birth center anymore. There's like legal reasons where you would have to like they are not a full medical, like they don't have like emergency stuff on hand if you needed like an epidural or a C-section or something. So they can't like legally let you give birth there if you're past 42 weeks. So Monday is like the 42-week mark. So I'm like, we only have like a few days left here to get this baby out before like, and it was just part of the plan. Like in my mind, I was like, I just want to be at the birth center. That's what we've been planning for months. So we prayed about it in because they're like, go take a walk, go to the chiropractor, get acupuncture, do all the things. Like just have a super relaxing day and then come back tomorrow and we'll see where you're at. I'm like, okay. So we were doing that and we got in the car and we were at a parking lot at the chiropractor and Eric was like, "Let's just pray about it and see what we should do." And we prayed and then Eric had a moment where he's like, "Let's just take a second to like see if we can hear what God's saying." And in that moment I was like, "I think I know which acupuncturist we should both go to." And then he was like, I had a like a not a vision, but like a kind of like an image in my mind of me holding our baby in a hospital. And I was like, "Okay. All right, fine. If that's where we're gonna end up, then God wants us there, then that's what's gonna happen. Like, we're not gonna be able to change that." So that gave me a ton of peace, and it's like, I guess we're gonna be at the hospital. We're gonna go into the birth center tomorrow. I'm not gonna be dilated. They're gonna tell us there's nothing we can do, and we're just gonna wait this baby out, and it'll be fine. So we go back the next day, and they're like, "Yeah, you're still not dilated at all." I'm like, "Yep, I knew it. This is what it's gonna be." And they're like, "But you're super effaced," which is like how thin things are. Like, basically, like, dilation is this way and effacement is this way. And they're like, "You're really effaced, like, super like, even you were really effaced yesterday, you're even more today." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "That means you could probably take castor oil today." And I was like, "That is not what I was thinking." I was not prepared for that outcome. I was prepared for either we are doing this natural induction with the catheter today, or we are just not doing anything at all. And I
Maybe
wasn't
share
prepared
what
for like an in
exactly
between.
castor oil does, because I've seen like little things about it on social media, like don't take it if you're pregnant. So maybe like share briefly about what exactly
Yeah.
the castor oil does.
So I talked with my midwives about it, and they recommend it at this point. Usually, at most, like they if they, I think what they would prefer is to just never not do any intervention and just let babies come, but then you can't be at the birth center, right? If it's past 42 weeks. But basically, what it does is it upsets your stomach, and your intestines, and then it makes things kind of just do this, like this kind of makes those things in there contract, and then it contracts against your uterus, and then your uterus is like, "This is a motion that I'm familiar with," and it gets it to do it basically, and it kinda kicks your uterus into having contractions. And I think it's like a 60 to 70% success rate, and, they're like, "Yeah, well, you can take it today, and if it doesn't do anything at all, you can do it again to the next day." And I was like, "If it doesn't work today, I'm not doing it again." So that's basically what it does, and I think one of the main concerns about it is, like, meconium, which is, like, if the baby poops inside, then you don't want them to, like, drink that through the fluid. That's, like, really, really, really bad. Like, hardly ever like, the reason why it's, like, I think it's statistically more likely that that will happen if you take castor oil, if that's, like, the concern. But what my midwife said was, like, it's probably and, like, it's kind of a concern because you're at 42 weeks, not because you took the castor oil. Like, it's because 'cause you're at 42 weeks, which means that your baby has had more time to do that. You know, if your baby's born early, that's probably not gonna happen. But if your baby's born at 42 weeks, they probably have already done that in the womb and have that risk already. So it's not because of the castor oil, and it's because people take castor oil at 42 weeks.
Mhm.
You know, nobody's gonna take castor oil-induced labor at, like, 39 weeks. Does that kinda make sense? It's
Yeah,
like
I think
people are
like
saying that the cause is the castor oil, but it's really probably just because 'cause you're at 42 weeks.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Myra is
I heard her.
desperately trying to she'll like
Does
come
she
put her
wanna make a
paws up.
cameo appearance?
She acts like she wants to, and then I go to pick her up, and then she's like, and she like sits back down on the floor. I'm like,
She's like, "Never mind."
you need to make up your mind what you want.
So, yeah, so we went and prayed about that too, and Eric was like, "I kinda feel I have this really strong feeling, like a dark feeling when I think about you taking castor oil." And I was like, "Okay." But then for some reason, we decided to do it anyway, which I don't recommend. When you pray and ask for guidance and you kinda get an answer of not doing it and then you do it anyway, not great. So not a proud moment there for sure, but it kinda just felt stupid calling the birth center and being like, "You know this thing that you told us to do? We're just not gonna do it." So it kinda well,
Sorry.
scratchies.
Myra insisted she was starting to scratch my chair, so I picked her
Moira!
up and she started yanking at my cord a little bit. Here
There
she
she
is.
is.
This is the only baby I have right now.
She's so cute.
She's still a good baby.
Yeah. But yeah, that was what happened, and so got some ice cream that I probably will never wanna eat again, and we made a smoothie, and I drank it at, like, 11 a.m. on Saturday the 15th, and we just sat around kinda playing cards and just, like, watching TV and just kinda sitting around waiting to see if something was gonna happen, and then at, like, 11, I think or no, 1 o'clock, I had to call them and be like, "Hey, nothing is happening," and they're like, "Okay, great. Call us again in 2 hours and see if anything happens." And then I think at, like, 3 o'clock, things started to kinda pick up, and I'm like, "Okay, I think but I don't know because I've never had contractions before, so I don't know if this is real or not, or if my stomach's just really upset with me right now because of the castor oil." And they're like, "Yeah, that's kinda hard to to tell, so just keep us posted." And then at, like, 5 o'clock, I would think I was, like, able to start timing contractions. I was like, "Okay, I think I can time these seem pretty regular." And then at 6 o'clock, they were, like, 3 minutes apart, and it had been that way for a whole hour, and that's kinda when they told us to call is when they're, like, a minute long 3 minutes apart, and that lasts for like consistently for an hour. So like 3-1-1. And so we called them and they listened to me through a contraction and they're like, yep, you can come in. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. We're going in. And this is so crazy. So we start texting people, we get everything in the car, and then Eric's like, all right, go ahead and send the text message that everybody in the world's been waiting for. I'm like, okay. So I start texting everybody. I think I probably texted you too. Like everybody, like, all right, it's baby time. Like, pray for us. We're going into the birth center. This is like 6 p.m. Central Time on the 15th. So Saturday night. And then nobody heard from us again until like 4 p.m. the next day. So we get there and they're like, okay, let's check you really quick. And it like hurts like crazy to get checked when you're in labor because like your cervix is not like down here. It's like kind of like this. So they have to like go in there and then like pull it like that so they can actually feel it. And it sucks. So they did that and they're like, shit, I just like start freaking out. So she pulls out really quick. She's like, okay, so I think I'm pretty sure that you're at like a 1 or a 2. Like that's what I got in there enough to like to know. And I'm like, okay. And it's only been like, 3 hours. So, whatever. And she's like, I'm going to send you home. Like, which sucks when you're in labor that you drive all the way home. It's
Yeah.
30-minute drive. So we drove all the way home, and I called like my doula because I was like, "Hey, don't go to the birth center. Actually, we're gonna go home. Can you come home?" And she was like, "Okay." So she met us at home, and I got in the tub, and I was like, "I don't know if I can do this. This is so hard," and like kind of like demoralized, I think, from like having to come home and like how long are we gonna be here? Like I want to go back there and get in their ginormous tubs. Like our tub is. You've been to our house. Our tub is not big
It's a normal tub.
especially when you're pregnant. And it's just not comfortable to sit crisscrossed a short way for very long and then being a long way. I don't know. It's just, you can't spread your legs apart as much. And it's like you get cramped pretty easily. And the hot water ran out like super fast. So I was like, but once my doula got there, like I kind of went from, I don't know if I can do this to oh, I can do this like pretty quickly because she's like helping me through with breathing and different things like that. So it was super nice to have. Just like it's nice to have somebody who's been through it before there to be like, okay, I know what you need to do. Because Eric's obviously never been through it and can't relate to what's going on, and he's never been at a birth before either, just like I haven't been at a birth before. So he was like, I don't know. So he kept boiling this giant pot of water downstairs in our kitchen and carrying it upstairs and dumping it in the tub like for 3 hours.
Oh.
He was like, boil water, bring it upstairs, boil. That's pretty much all he was doing for 3 hours. I thought I was in the tub for an hour. I was like, how long was I in there? They're like 3 hours. I was like, oh, okay. Time is like a vortex when you're in labor. It's hours feel like minutes and minutes feel like hours.
I was
Like
gonna say,
it's
I would
just
expect it to be like I
crazy.
was in there all day and it was only 3 hours.
No, like it's super weird. Like sometimes like people would tell me like, "Oh, it's going to take us an hour to blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Okay. That's going to feel like 5 minutes to me." Like the whole like while you're in labor, it feels like time goes by 3 times as fast almost. Like it feels so quick.
Hmm.
But then once you're done having the baby, then you're like, "I was in labor for 5 days." Like that's what it feels like. Like, that's kind of, like, how it feels, like, in the moment, you're like, "How long have we been here?" It feels like we've been here a year, but at the same time, I feel like I blinked and now we're here. It's really weird. I don't know how to explain it to you until you've been through it, but
Maybe
it
tell
was
us in the
it was really
comments if you're a mother. Tell us in the comments if you experienced that,
Yeah.
because
I've
that's
heard
not
other
something
people
I've
say
heard.
the same.
That's not
Like, a
something
lot of
I've
people that I've
personally
talked
heard,
to.
but yeah, that's
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, a lot of people I've talked to have said, like, "Yep, oh, yeah, I completely understand." Like, time just doesn't exist. It's like you're in a black hole. Where you're like, like I don't know. It's like the Interstellar movie where you like don't know how much time is going on back home while you're where you are. That's kind
Mhm.
of how it is. Um, so where we eventually get to a point, and then I also recommend the TENS unit. I got to use that after I got out of the tub. It's basically like this thing that has 4 sticky things, and it sticks on your back, like 2 on the upper and 2 on the lower, and it like just zaps you basically your back muscles, and then you turn those on like right before the contraction starts, and then when it's over, then then you turn it off. But like it basically just It helps you focus on that instead of the contraction. And I was like, "You know what? If this is as bad as it gets, I can do this. This is pretty easy." Or like, "I can manage this. I can tough through this." And so eventually at like 11 p.m., we call the birth center again. They're like, "Yep, you can come back. You sound different. Like you can come back. You seem like you've progressed." And our doula was like, "Yeah, I think you can call them. I think you can go back." So we go. I got to use the TENS unit in the car. She gave it to me to like use, and then we got to the birth
Is
center
your water
again.
broken at this point? Okay. I'm not sure the order of, again, all I've heard is what people have told me, what I've seen on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. I've never actually sat down and been like, what does everything mean? What does this look like? Blah, 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 blah.
So it depends on the person. I know somebody who their water broke and then their baby was then contractions started after that, and the baby was born a couple hours later. Like that's can happen that way. Like some people have their like another person I know, their water broke and then they went into labor. And then some people they go into labor and then their water breaks later. So it really depends on the person. That's why when I thought my water broke at 40 weeks, I was like, "Oh, then contractions should start soon." And then when they didn't, I was like, "All right, that's not good. Hopefully that wasn't my water." So then we get to the birth center and I'm like, "I don't want to be checked again." And they were like, "That's fine." And then this apparently only happened twice this year, but it kind of sucked. Both of their birthing rooms were full when we got there, so we had to like go upstairs to this other random room that's not a birthing room. And in my mind, I was like, "Oh, well, this is just temporary." And then like we were there the entire time. So that was frustrating because no big bed and no big bathtub like I was expecting and excited about, which is incredibly frustrating. But in the moment, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I mean, I care and it's frustrating, but what am I going to do about it? I can't really argue with people right now. And so I was on the ball and bouncing, and at like midnight, like 12:30 a.m., Sunday, I was like, I'm pretty sure my water just broke. And they were like, "Okay." So they test it and they're like, "Yep, that's your water. It broke for sure." And in my mind, I was like, "Okay, great. My water broke. The baby's gonna be born in 2 hours or less." Like that is usually like that's what I've heard from other people. And 3 hours later, when the baby still wasn't born, and like once the water broke, the TENS unit stopped like helping me at all. I had it on still, but like it didn't really do much for me anymore. Pain management wise. And so, and then my doula was doing like some hip squeezes, and that was super helpful
Yeah,
for
like the
pain
counter
management.
pressure.
Yeah, she was doing that. That was super duper helpful. And then at 3 hours after the water broke, because after your water breaks, like water is like a cushion there around the baby. And once the water's gone, then you don't have that anymore. Your contractions hurt like 10 notches higher.
Mm.
So that was why the TENS unit stopped like being effective for me because everything was just so much stronger, it just wasn't helping. And then I was like, I just need to it was probably like 3:30. I'm like, I need to just sleep. I'm so tired. I haven't really eaten anything today because I had that smoothie and then I was not hungry and then contractions started and then while you're in labor, eating is like so hard. I recommend smoothies if you're into them, but like because Eric made me a smoothie, and that was actually something that because he would just put it in my face, and I would, take a
Hmm.
couple sips of it. You don't have to chew it. You don't have to chew and swallow it. You can just sip it and drink it, and it's. I'm gonna do that next time. Like when I'm in labor, I'm like, make me a smoothie. Like because you gotta eat. It's so important to have strength, and I just didn't do that because I was so hard. And then when we got there, the smoothie accidentally got spilled by someone, so I didn't get to eat. And I got other food, but I didn't eat it because I'm like I can't chew and swallow things right now. Drinking water is also important. So Eric was shoving water in my face all the time. You drink some water. I take a couple sips of it, and then so that's Eric's job. That's your husband's job to make sure that you have food and you have water and like remind you to do it because you forget. Otherwise, I never would have like ate or drank anything. I would have been
Yeah.
too focused on other things. You seem like you wanted to say something.
Well, I've heard that, like, so when you go to the hospital, and this is again what I've heard from, like, I'll call them birth influencers or pregnancy influencers on Instagram, where the hospital doesn't want you to eat. They tell you not to eat. And the
Because if you
reason that, yeah, is that if you need to go into surgery, then that's the issue. But
Mhm.
from, I think we both are roughly on the same page where, like, the hospital does not necessarily have the birthing mother's best interests and in mind
Not
when they
always, yeah.
have their, have come up with their practices. So
Mhm.
if you actually were able to eat and had the energy to go through the pregnancy, you may not need the intervention in the first
Yeah.
place. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's just super hard to eat in my experience. Like, it's just, like, the last thing you wanna do because it, like, makes you nauseous and, like,
Mhm.
just I don't know, it's just and you have contractions and you're like, "I just the last thing I wanna do right now is eat."
Yeah, that's just not
Smo
what's on your mind,
smoothies
I'm sure.
are smoothies are great because you can just suck them and drink them. So much easier than chewing. So, I recommend that, but I got spilled, and then I didn't want anything else. So, they stopped trying to give me food. I don't remember. Maybe they did, I just don't remember. There's also a bunch of, like, parts of the birth that apparently, like, you just don't remember. Maybe that's why time feels like it goes so fast because you just don't remember things. But, like, I was on this bed for, like, an hour, this little fold-out Murphy bed that was upstairs, and Eric was next to me, and another thing I had heard from a friend was, like, when she was at a point where she's like, "I can't do this anymore," she, like, looked at her husband and she was like, "I'm not okay," and that really stuck with me, and I was remembering that in that moment because I was like I would, like, scream through this contraction and then try to sleep for a couple minutes and then, because it was, like, every 2 minutes or whatever, and Eric I would looked at Eric and I'm like, "I'm not okay. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna die." And he was like, "No, you're not gonna die. You're gonna be okay. You got this. You're doing great." And then, because what is he supposed to say? Like, "Yep, you're right. Like, too bad, honey." And he's like, "No, you got it. You're doing great. You're doing fantastic." And then he would look away from me and look at the midwife and the doula, I guess, and he was like, "What do we do?" Because he's like, "Oh, you're not gonna die." I'm like, "I'm going to die, or I'm gonna figure out a way to knock myself out." This is because I wasn't expecting to stick because this has been 4 hours since the water broke. I wasn't expecting to still be having contractions 4 hours later. That just wasn't an expectation I had, which is unfortunate for me because that's apparently also very normal to have your water break and be several hours and no baby. So the midwife eventually comes back to me and she's like, "Okay, so I know you didn't want to get checked again, but it might give you some useful information if you wanted to, because then you could decide if you want to stay here. Because if you're at a 9, then like you're close and that's really, motivating. But if you're not, so if you're at like a 3 or a 4, then maybe you could discuss or think about going to a hospital, getting an epidural, like if you, I know you didn't want to, but like it gives you information to know what you wanna do."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Fine, go ahead and do it." And that time it didn't hurt, like, at all, because when you I had labored enough where everything was just there, so she could see it or she could feel it pretty easily. And she was like, "Okay, so you're at a 4." And I was like, "It's been, 13 hours since labor officially, like, started." And I was like, she's like, "Okay, that number, that doesn't tell you where you're going, it just tells you where you've been. It tells you where you've gone to this far, up to this point. You could be at a 10 in an hour, or it could be 12 more hours, and we just don't know. There's just no way to know. And the problem right now too is that you're super tired and your body is like just exhausted. I don't like pushing is gonna probably gonna be a hard thing for you at this like, I don't know, like, it was basically, like, giving me all this information of, like, it's up to you what you wanna do, but, like, you're kind of at this point where you're fighting against yourself because sleeping is what your body needs you to do right now, and you're not able to get very good sleep, but also, like, you're sleeping don't think I guess she said something about it doesn't make your contractions as efficient because 'cause you're not as, like, engaged, I guess, because 'cause you're sleeping. So she's like, "You're kind of fighting against yourself, but there's nothing really you can do about it." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I looked at my doula and I'm like, "Is an epidural gonna hurt the baby?" And she was like, "The risks are super low. And at this point, it's not gonna stall your labor. So you could sleep and rest and continue to dilate and then have energy for pushing." And so like I don't usually like super recommend interventions, but this is a case in which I wouldn't be like opposed to it. And I'm like, "Okay, let's go." So that was I looked at Eric, I think I probably talked to him about it, I don't remember, I guess, but, like, "Yep, let's do it. Let's just do it." And so they're like, "Okay, which hospital do you wanna go to?" And I was like, "I don't care, whichever one, like, you work with the most." They're like, "Okay." So then she goes downstairs, like, literally, like, 5 minutes, I think, because Eric confirmed this 5 minutes. I didn't just make this up. 5 minutes later, she comes back upstairs and she's like, "They can take us. Let's go." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we got in the car and it's like a 3-minute drive. So it was super quick. And my doula got me from Eric dropped me off. She grabbed me in a wheelchair and we got to the front desk. And the lady was like, "Okay, well, you need to sign this form, sign here, initial here." It's like kind of the last thing I really wanted to do. And so I'm like, "Hold on a second." Then I scream really quick and then come back with, "Okay." And then fill it out as much as I could. I don't know. I didn't read any of it. I have no clue what it said. And then we get to the room and Eric finds me. He found me because it was like 5 in the morning and he just followed the yelling, screaming. He was like, I'm looking for, never mind, I'll just go this way. They're like, "Okay." So get into the room and they're like, "It's going to take like an hour for us to get this epidural." Oh, actually, they asked me if I wanted an epidural. I was like, "That's literally the whole entire reason I came here." And they're like, "Okay, well, it's going to take us like an hour to get it ready." And I'm like, "I don't care." Because like an hour to me was better than 5 hours. And also an hour was probably it literally felt like 5 minutes to me. So that's kind of nice, actually. In the meantime, they're like, "Do you want to try this nitrous oxide?" Which is
Was that
basically
the
like,
gas?
yeah, it's like laughing gas. It's like what you would get at the dentist. I'm sure you're familiar.
My
Have
dad
you
never
ever done
used
it?
it. No, I haven't. I kind of wanted to, but I think they mostly I think they mostly use like Novocaine or whatever just knocks you out these days.
Gotcha. So I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Anything at this point. I don't care." They're like, "Sorry, well, you're waiting. We can just do that." So I think I had to sign something else. And then I kept like saying that you can just listen to whatever Eric says. And they were like, "Are you legally married?" "Yes." I had to say that like 3 times. I'm like, "You can't write this down somewhere." Every new person had to ask. I'm like, this can't just be universal information, I guess. I don't know. So this nitrous oxide just basically makes you kind of feel like you're mentally not there. Like
Was that helpful?
yeah, it doesn't like dull pain at all, really. It just kind of makes you feel like you don't care about it that much. It still hurts, but like you're like, whatever. I'm high. It's fine. And I looked at Eric at one point and I was like, "I like nitrous oxide." And he was like, "Yeah?" And I'm like, "This will be funny if I say this, so I'm gonna say it. Do you want to try some?" And he's like, "I don't think I can do that." I was like, "Okay." So
Your
then
loss.
eventually I offered you to do drugs in front of all these people and you said no. And so then eventually they get the epidural thing and they're like, "Okay, well, it's gonna sting, like a bee sting kind of. And so just be prepared for that. Just so you know, it's gonna hurt a little bit." And I was like, "Do you not see what's going on? Literally screaming every 2 minutes here in excruciating pain. Think I can handle the bee sting in the back. I think we're good." And that's what I said in my mind, right? Like, but in reality, I actually have been stung in the back by a bee before when I was younger, and I know what that feels like. And I was like, "Sure, I've done that before." So I looked at Eric and I'm like, without him knowing any of this backstory, I was like, "I've been stung by a bee before." And he was like, "Okay, great. That's good, I guess." And then they like, I'm like super, high. I don't know how else to say it. High on this nitrous oxide. And then the nurse was like, "Okay, so here's all the risks of the epidural, and you could die. This could happen, paralysis, all these
Is your
things."
doula there at this point?
Yeah, and like, "We need you to sign here, initial here, sign here, blah blah blah." I'm like, "I don't know if I can do that." Like, okay, so I take the clipboard and I'm just like, it just feels like you're in this cloud, like you don't have. It basically feels like you just don't have oxygen. Like you're just so like it's weird, and I'm just like, "Okay, I don't know. I think I can write. I don't know." And apparently my doula and my midwife that came to help do the transfer to the hospital and Eric are all standing there kind of like, "I don't think this is ethical or legal."
I was gonna say, like, are they able to, like, if you're literally under the influence of
Yeah.
you're already under the influence of a drug, and I can't help but think pregnancy contractions counts as like distress, so you're signing something under duress or however it's said. Like,
Well, how I gotta sign it, I know, but, like, should have made me sign it, like, before I was on this gas.
yeah, like, no, I agree that you need to sign it, but like that regardless, it still feels like risky to do.
Yeah.
Like you could
I was like,
easily be like, I don't know all the like I wasn't aware of all the risks. I was on this
oh, I
drug
for sure
anyway.
did not read it at
Yeah,
all. I
yeah,
have no clue what it said,
yeah.
and my signature looked terrible, and then it said date and time, and I was like, "Time is it?" And Eric was like, "You don't have to." I think they like told me, so I wrote it down. But they originally told me when they gave me the clipboard that I didn't have to put that information down. I just didn't hear that part. And they're like, "That's also not great. You don't want to like sign things and then other people filled in like the date and time later. Like that's not great."
Want to avoid that. Yeah.
I just didn't think about that. I just asked for it in the form, so I wrote it down. You know. So then they did the epidural, and as somebody who has gotten an epidural and also gotten stung in the back by a bee, it does feel identically the same. Just so people can know.
I've never been stung in the back by a bee, so that does not help me. But
Have you been stung at all?
I got stung by a was it a hornet? It was I was mowing the lawn and whatever branch of buzzing stinging
Ugh.
insect that burrows in the ground that came out and that stung me in the butt. I made my mom put
Oh,
toothpaste on it because I read that that helps pull out a bee sting, but it wasn't
does
actually
it?
a bee. So it was just
Hmm.
a welt on my butt with toothpaste on it that didn't help at all.
Well, I mean, I probably similar feeling then. I don't know.
I definitely didn't like it, I can tell you that much. I ran in the house screaming, but I
Yeah,
thought I was gonna get swarmed, I'm pretty sure. That also was
that would
probably a
be
fear.
really, really, really bad.
Anyway,
So the first thing they do is just like that numbing shot, and that's what feels like the bee sting. And it's like
because the epidural's a
doesn't really
big
hurt.
needle, right?
Yeah, they put it in your spine.
Mhm.
But they put the numbing shot in first, and then they put that thing in, so you can't feel it. But you like, you know it's there, but you can't, like, really feel it's weird. And you also in the moment, I just didn't care. They took the nitrous oxide away from me before that. They did that, though, so I was like but I was still feeling effects of it, so it's kinda like, "I don't care that you're doing this," and you can feel it that it's there, and they're like, "Does it feel like it's in the middle?" And I was like, "I think it's kind of on the right a little bit," and then so they, like, moved it, I guess. And then after that, they, like, taped it really good so that you couldn't like, it can't move at all, and then they started, pumping the stuff in there, and then you lay on your side, it's gravity based, so then it worked pretty immediately. I was like, "Great, that's awesome." And then I couldn't feel you can still move your toes and, like, move your legs, but it's like your muscles are super weak, and, like, it's, like, kinda like when your arm falls asleep and it's hard to move it kinda thing. Like, that's how
Mhm.
it is with your legs, though. And then you flip over to the other side, takes a little bit longer for that one to take effect because they don't do, like, the extra boost. And then every contraction just got less and less pain. And eventually, I could still feel contractions, but, like, couldn't feel the pain of them. So, like, it was, like, glorious.
So is it basically then your body is still working the same way, you just can't feel it?
I think that's the idea. So then my doula was like, "Okay." She's also, like, super pregnant. So she was like, "I have to go." Um Like, well, I shouldn't say she had to go. Like, I think she asked Eric if she could go home and go take a rest, I guess, and he was like, "Sure." Um, because it had been 12 hours and it was an overnight, so she's like, "And then keep me updated, I'll come back, if you're still haven't had the baby by blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Okay." I am so out of it then, like, I don't like, whatever. But, like, what she gave me is some really good advice before she left, and, also was like, "Call me if you need me. Like, if you need something, like, immediately, call me. I'm on call. Like, text me, call me, keep me updated." I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Okay, so this bed here, it drops out when it comes time to push, it drops out, and, like, kinda like this, and then they can get a grab bar for you, and you can squat and push if you want to." I was like, "Okay, sounds great." Like, so make sure you ask for that if that's what you want. Also, make sure you get some sleep, like, rest. Do not let them, bother you, like, just rest. Like, don't let the nurses bother you, like, make them let you sleep. I was like, "Okay." So at like 7 a.m. she like leaves, and the midwife had already left because she was just there for the like to transfer care. And Eric crashes on the couch because he's like, "All right, you're good. We're both gonna sleep and get some rest now." So he goes and falls asleep, and I almost fall asleep. I was like, I felt like it had been 20 minutes, and I was so close to falling asleep because I was exhausted. And then this nurse comes in, and like her, she came in and she was like, "I gotta turn you over," and I was like, "You're kidding?" And she's like, "No." Like, the baby doesn't like this position. Like, they had monitors on her at this point to, like, because of the epidural. They're like, "She doesn't that she's kinda, like, decelerating, so, like, we need to, like, move you to the other side." Also, the epidural too, like, you kinda have to get flipped every 20 minutes anyway, to, like, make sure the effects stay. And I was like, "Great." And that was, like, really it's like a monumental task to flip over when you're 42 weeks pregnant and also can't feel your legs very well, and in your hips, your pelvis still kind of hurts. So, like, that was fun, and then every 20 minutes, she came in and flipped me over, so I didn't really get to sleep that much, and then they came in and checked the dilation again. They're like, "You're at a 9," at, like, 8 AM. I was like, "Great, perfect." They're like, "We'll give it another hour or so,
So
see
did
where
you
you're
get to
at."
sleep at all that night?
I mean, so, like, by the time the epidural was in, it was, like, 6:37 AM,
Oh, okay.
and so by, like, 8 AM, I was at a 9 centimeters, which I don't know if that's would have happened at the birth center or not, or if it only happened because I was able to relax a lot. I have no idea, right? There's only a way to know is to turn back time and redo it and figure out what would have happened, but it's like and then at, like, 9:15, 9:30 AM, they're like, "Okay, now you're at a 10." And they're, "Do you feel any, like" 'cause I was like, "How do I know if I'm supposed to push?" Because epidural, it's hard to now tell when you're supposed to start pushing, and
So
they're
what is
like,
that something that your midwife told you? Because I have heard that like when it comes to pushing is part of the reason women tear and your body will naturally like push because you're already
yeah,
contracting. So is that
that's what I'm kinda trying to say. Like, you eventually it gets to a point where you're like, "The only thing that I can do right now is push." Like, that's
like that like takes over your mind kind of thing and body a
well,
little
it's
bit?
kind of like a yeah, like, it's this is a bad example, I guess, but, like, when you have to throw up, like, your body just takes over, right? Where you're
Okay.
like, "That's what's gonna happen." Like,
And
it's
so you're
I can't stop it,
okay.
you know? That's what's supposed to happen with pushing, supposedly. I never got to that point. It just kind of with the epidural, it's hard to tell when that sensation is happening. So they were like, "Do you feel pressure? Like, do you feel that pressure of, like, gotta push?" And I was like, "I mean, I think I feel pressure." And I'm pretty sure it was because I forgot to take like, you could every, like, 20 minutes, you could take another like, hit of epidural, and I just didn't do that. I've somebody told me it wasn't gonna be useful for some reason, so I didn't do it. Very odd. Don't understand it, but I hadn't been doing it, so wasn't doing anything. So I was like, "Yeah, I think I do," and I think it was just because I was feeling more pain because I had forgot to take the hits, and so they're like, "Okay, then we can just start pushing then," and I'm so sure we started pushing way too early. Like, I think we should have waited and until I was like, "There's nothing I can do but push right now." Like, I wish we had waited until that point because what's the point of not like, there's no point in starting early except for if people are in a hurry, which a lot of times I think feel like hospitals are kind of just in a hurry. And like pretty much everyone too that kind of was on our care team, it felt like they had this attitude of like, you didn't want to be here, you thought you could do this without us, but now you need us and you're here.
I
You
hate
know,
that. That
that's
makes
just kind of how it felt,
yeah.
which was very unfortunate. Like I could tell you more later, but like
Oh,
there's a
I'll
lot of
want to hear it.
instances there was a lot of instances where, they're like, "Well, this is just not our policy." And I was like, "Well, that's what I want." And they're like, "But it's not our policy." And I was or not our usual way of doing it. And I'm like, "Well, that's what I want." And they're like, "Okay, fine, fine."
I feel like from what I have
Or like
heard,
they would roll their eyes and like,
yeah, it
"Can't
seems
believe
like of
this."
all not a feminist, but it seems as though when you look at overall when a doctor or nurse will most kind of shame a patient is a mother likely in active labor.
Yeah, I agree.
So
So that
I think
was
that's
very
a,
hard.
a huge concern.
So that happened often where she would be like, "Well, we're gonna do this," and I'm like, "Well, I don't wanna do that," or like, "I wanna do this." Like, specifically, like, I wanted to push a certain way, and they were, like, physically trying to make me not do that. Like, they would literally grab my legs and do what they like, make me and I was like, "I want to do it this way," and they're like, "Oh, no, this way," and, like, they're like, "Okay, okay, sounds good." And then the contraction would start, and they'd be like, "Oh," and then they would, like, do what they originally wanted in the first place, and I'm like, "Okay." So that was really frustrating. So we pushed for like and also that grab bar situation, I was like, "Oh, yeah, my doula said you guys have a grab bar," and she looked at me like I was insane. Like I like she had no clue what I was talking about, and I was like, "Yeah, so I can squat," and she was like, "Well, that's usually not how we do it," and I'm like,
I
"Okay,
don't
great. Well,
care.
I would like to do that though," and she was like so after like, 5 minutes of arguing with her, it felt like, she was like, "Can we get the grab bar up here?" And I'm like, "Okay, so you knew that this was a thing, and you just argued with me for no reason. Like, what's the point of arguing with me?
It makes
Like,
me so
what
mad just listening to this.
what the heck? Like, I don't understand." And she's like, and she figured out how to drop the bed. I'm like, "Oh, so now you know how to do it magically,
Hmm.
somehow.
Hmm. Interesting.
You acted like it was like just something you've never heard of before 5 minutes ago, but now you just know how to do it. So, okay, fine." I should give her a fake name so I can call her by name.
So then
I don't wanna
Susie
offend.
walks in.
Right. Okay, so then we pushed for, like, 3 hours, and the baby still wasn't there, and I'm freaking out because I still hadn't taken more shots, and then somebody came in and was like, "Oh, you should have been doing that the whole time because that would have helped you," and I'm like, "Okay." So I started doing that, that helps a lot, and they came in and they're like, "Okay, so basically what you can do to, because I was like, "I need other options," and they're like, "Okay, so obviously you could take Pitocin, which because your contractions are getting further apart, because
And Pitocin is basically like fake oxytocin, right?
yeah, it brings on contractions. It's what people do when they go in and get it medically induced. Those, I think, pretty sure it's like that's just what they get. So like we can give you Pitocin, and then that would because your contractions are getting further apart, which is sad at this point in labor. Like I was talking to one of my friends who's a nurse. She's like, we just get so sad for moms when that happens because it's so frustrating. Because you're working so hard and your body's just so exhausted that it's just slowing down and it's
Because you didn't get
stalling.
any time to rest, basically. What's
No,
the
no
point
time
of
to rest, and I
telling you
didn't
that
get to
you can
eat.
rest with an epidural if they have to flip you over every 20 minutes?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
so
I
that's
was
normal,
wondering
right?
that. I'm pretty sure that that's typical.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's I feel like that's something that maybe new mothers should keep in mind is that if you get the epidural, I'm
You're
sure
gonna
you
get
got
rest, but
more
it's gonna get
rest.
interrupted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of rest that you get might be they might misrepresent that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's more rest than I would have got if I hadn't gotten the epidural,
Right.
but, you know,
But
still
this,
not what I
you're saying like
expected.
you're still tired by the end because you hadn't gotten to rest very much, which it just sounds
And I
like
didn't eat
a
either.
rough, yeah, that just all around sounds rough.
I was eating honey sticks though. Like just we got these sticks of honey that we just eat those. And that's good because it's sugar, it's helpful for energy.
Just
So
quick
I
energy,
recommend
yeah.
those. And they were like, "Make sure you don't eat anything." Once you got to the hospital, they're like, "Don't eat anything." And then my doula was like, "I know they said not to eat anything, but you can. It's fine." I was like, "Okay." So I'm not telling you to break hospital policy, but
It's your choice.
what are they gonna do if you need emergencies? Like people need emergency surgeries all the time. I'm sure that they don't rush in and go, "But when's the last time you ate?"
I think it's just a
I guess
risk.
we're just gonna have to wait then to do your emergency surgery until it's
Yeah.
been 3 hours since you've eaten. So hopefully you don't die in the
Yeah.
meantime.
I think
Like they're
it's
not gonna
just
do
a
that.
risk mitigation more so than a you will for sure choke. It's more of a you're more likely to choke kind of thing,
Yeah.
probably.
So they're like, "Yeah, you could still eat a little bit," and I was like, "Okay, well, I still don't feel like it." So I didn't. I just had those honey sticks because you're allowed to have like the clear fluids and water and stuff like that. So and they were pumping fluids into me at this point. So they're like, "Okay, we can do Pitocin, we can bring your contractions closer together, to, like, be more efficient because 'cause you're being not very efficient right now with them getting further apart," which is unfortunate, and pushing is a push and pull thing. So, like, you push the baby and then they kinda suck back in, and then you push them and then they suck back in. So it's like this, like, back and forth until you finally get them out. And so I was like, "No, I don't wanna do that because I had, like, researched Pitocin and I didn't want those drugs, these, like, just side effects that I just wasn't comfortable with for me or my baby, so I was like, "I don't want that." They're like, "Okay." well, her heart rate is kind of like starting to go up, so we'll keep an eye on it. And I was like, okay. And they're like, the other thing we can do is like a vacuum extraction. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So we just kept pushing. And eventually I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. And then they were like, oh, but we can see her. We can see her. Like they could see her. And I was like, okay, great, cool. But they brought over a mirror and I still couldn't see her. So I was like, sus. And then eventually I was like, I just put my hand down there because I was like, I'm just so tired right now. I want to know what things are feeling like. I don't know. And they're like, yeah, you can feel her head. Go put your fingers down. And I'm like, okay. And I could feel her head. And I was like, I went from like, there's no way I can do this to like, I got this, like that. Like I was like, I can do this. We're good. Let's get her out. And then I could see her in the mirror and you could see like this much of her head. Like it was really good. And they were so encouraging. Like every time I would push, they were like, oh yeah, that's it. You got it. And so I got into a really good rhythm. And then eventually they were like, okay, well, it's been 4 hours of pushing. That's a lot of trauma to her head. That's a lot of like, I don't know. They said a bunch of stuff that like I told my midwife later and she was like, I can't tell you I wasn't there, so I can't tell you if what they said was like actually like, yeah, like this is a bad situation, or if they just wanted to hurry up. Like there's no way for me to tell
Because babies'
because
heads
I
are
wasn't there.
in pieces, like their skull's not fused together, partially so that they
Mm-hmm.
can come through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm sure it's not ideal if they sit there forever, but they're also kind of designed for that.
Yeah, but I also think like going back to, I think we started pushing way too soon. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think she was ready because I felt like the pushing just wasn't doing anything.
Right.
Like I felt like I was making zero progress. So I was like, this is ridiculous. So they're like, okay, well, what do you want to do at this point? Because we are really concerned. Her heart rate's going up. And I was like, okay, well, we called our doula about the vacuum. And she's like, okay, well, if you can see her and this is the situation and you're this close and you're this dilated, like you're 10 centimeters, like if you do like you could do the vacuum, it's relatively safe. And like, just don't do it more than 3 times. Like, okay, like don't do more than 3 attempts. And the doctor who was going to attempt it, she was like super confident that it was going to work. Felt like she didn't guarantee it, obviously, but she was like, it seems like we have good results. So it was like, okay. So she does it twice and nothing, like no budging, not at all. The baby just doesn't want to respond to it. And also found out later she was sunny side up. So it's just not ideal for them to be that way. There's no
So
way
what
to
is the
control that.
placement like? Because everyone's like, oh, she's not in this position. Like, I know they have to come out head first,
Yeah.
but like, if they do come out like face up or face down, can you just briefly tell us what kind of issues they'll can run into?
So like if this is your tailbone,
Uh huh.
if they're face down, that's like the soft part of their head. That's good. You want that. It's easier for them to get out. But like and the way your pelvis is positioned, but if it's their face up, like my baby was, then like her skull is like resting on your tailbone. It's a lot more painful to get her out. It's also like harder, like it's easier for her to get stuck, like
Okay.
harder for her to get out. And
Okay.
there's like, I guess they kind of like contractions kind of like do this. They kind of go into like a corkscrew motion and like to push the baby down and get them to come out. And you can't really control which contraction corkscrew will lock them into place in your pelvis. And it can be sunny side up or it can be not. And there's not a huge way to control that, which is unfortunate because I thought that there was. So I felt like a failure because later on, until I found this out, because I was like, I did everything to try to make sure she was the right way. And she was for most of the pregnancy until she was about to be born. Stubborn, blah, blah. You might hear her in the background. Daddy's watching her. So at that point, they're like, okay, well, we're not even going to try the vacuum a third time. It's not doing anything. We don't want to hurt her any more than we would like need to. And I was like, or like cause any more trauma to her head than we would need to. And I was like, okay. So then, I was like, well, fine. I was desperate because I didn't want to have a C-section. I was like, let's do the Pitocin. Let's just do it at this point. And they were like, well, we can't do that now because it's been 4 hours. Her heart rate is really high. If we give you Pitocin, the contractions will get closer together, which will stress the baby out even more. And her heart rate will go even more high. We're really concerned about her and like starting to get concerned about you. Like, I could have kept pushing for like 6 hours. Like at this point, I have my epidural. I got my rhythm going. Like I don't mind being there for as long as I needed to be. but they were like, we really think we should do a C-section. We really recommend it. And I was like, I look at Eric and he's like, I'm like, what do you think? And he was like, I think it's okay. I'm like, okay. And then I asked him to call or text my family or my parents and have them pray for us. And then they kind of spread the word so that people could pray, I guess. So he calls my dad and tells him to pray and everything. And as soon as I gave like, yep, okay, fine, let's do a C-section, it was like a NASCAR pit crew. They were like, great. And it was kind of like they were like, this is what we were hoping was going to happen the whole time. And now that you've given us permission to do this, let's do it. And they went into like as fast emotion as they could and got everything all ready. And then they were like, all right, Eric, like, we'll come back and get you, put all this stuff on, and we're going to bring you to the operating room. We'll come back and get you. And he was like, okay. So like they leave him in the room. They whatever. Then like they put your arms like this on your sides, and like we're gonna put this in you and that and all that. I felt like I was on like 15 drugs. I was like, I don't care at this point. Just get the baby out. And I was like, also my birth plan that you asked me for when I came here, yeah, it has like a just in case of C-section thing. So like make sure you look at that. And they were like, okay. Does somebody have that? Okay, great. Yeah, we'll look at it. And I was like, great. This is not gonna go well. And then I'm like, do you want a clear sheet so you can see what's going on? Oh, just kidding. We don't have one of those. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't want one anyway, but would have sucked if I did. Don't offer it then if you don't have it. So then Eric gets in the room and then they're doing it's a weird feeling, this C-section, because they just use the same thing that they use for the epidural to like put the stuff in to numb you from the waist down. But it feels weird because you can like what's happening and you can feel it happening, but it doesn't hurt. And it feels like it's supposed to hurt. So you're like, I don't know. It also feels like they're slamming down as hard as they can on you.
Right.
It's so weird. Because they do, like, I guess, take all your organs out and then put them back in.
Yeah, that would have freaked me out.
So they do that, and then all of a sudden the lady next to me is like, she's out! And I was so fast. It was like 30 seconds, it felt like. And I was like, she's out! And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I can't hear her. And they're like, it's okay. And then like it felt like 10 seconds later I could hear her. Like right after I said that, like she started crying. And I was like, okay, she's here. She's alive. She's out. I don't care about anything anymore. It's like the adrenaline's just like crash. Like, I'm done. We're good. So I'm like, Eric, go to her. Go be with her. He's like, okay. So he goes over and I'm like, don't let them cut the cord. And he was like, okay. They already cut it. And I was like, oh. So I was super mad. And I was like, make sure that you do like a vaginal swab. And they were like, oh, we can't do that because you're on these medications and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. And I was just like, didn't care enough to argue at that point. You're in a state where it's like, you just don't care. So I was like, or you do care, but you don't have any energy to fight for yourself.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay. And then I was like, well, make sure you clear her lungs of liquid. They're like, yep, we're doing that. And then Eric was with her and he's like, do you want to see her? And I was like, sure. So they put her on me and I was like, you got to take her away. I'm going to drop her. Because I was so weak and so tired at that point. All of a sudden I was like, I can't not fall asleep right now. Like, I'm just going to pass out. And he was like, okay. So like, do you want to do skin to skin, Dad? And he's like, yep. So like, that's the plan. That's like the one thing from the birth plan that they honored, that like Eric was going to do skin to skin. It's C-section. So he took her and he got to like hold her and talk to her for like 45 minutes while I was getting stitched up. And then so I just took a nap and and I was like, oh, everything's over, everything's done, the baby's safe, we're good. So that was kind of nice in that moment. And then we got back to the recovery room and got to hold the baby. I mean, there's more, but that's basically the story.
That's
We've
crazy.
already gone quite a long time.
Yeah. We do need to wrap because I'm a little bit nervous that we were going to get kicked out of our recording studio, but that was crazy. I'm so upset for you and the things that specific, like obviously you can't control your own body, but the professionals who didn't behave the way that they should have,
There's more.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but that makes me so mad for you. But it sounds like, I know as you were telling the story, it's hard. Sometimes I have to remind myself, okay, she's like screaming every contraction, like every 3 minutes. Like she's really going through it right now because you tell it so calmly.
Mhm.
But would you say, like, 'cause some people describe it as like traumatic, basically. Is that, would you?
I can see how it could be. I think what helped it not be is, like, completely trusting God with whatever happened, and I also went into it not being married to my birth plan.
That's good.
So, like, I had my birth plan, what I wanted, but I also went into it expecting it to not go to plan. I was like, "It's hardly ever does birth go exactly the way you want it to. It's so unpredictable." And I was like, "I this is my plan, and I guarantee that's not exactly what's gonna happen. Hopefully, it's close," but it ended up being, like, pretty much opposite, which sucked. So
Did the
that
birth
was
plan help
sucky.
you think, like
It
like
would've if they would've actually read it.
but like
Like, the
having
the
it for
birth
your
center was
like
reading it, and that
mhm.
was nice, but they didn't at the hospital. It
Okay.
was nice for me to
Okay.
have. I liked having it, because that gave me peace of mind of like, "Wait, if I can't talk, people will know what I want," and then Eric knows what I want, and
Mhm.
he has he has our copy of it, so he'll know. And he already knew, like, I probably should have walked through the whole thing with him and told him what all the things mean, but I didn't, so next time. Um, oh well. And they asked for the birth plan when we got to the hospital, and then they just didn't care about it, like, at all, so I don't understand why they asked for it.
Mhm.
Maybe just to make me feel better, I don't know. Like, one of my friends, who had a C-section that she didn't wanna have, it was emergency C-section as well, she told me after her baby was born, she's like, "This is somebody told me this, I'm gonna tell it to you, like, just, for your future. Have a birth plan, don't be married to it, but also as long as you're okay and the baby's okay, that's, like, the only thing that matters." And I was like, "Okay." And that was what I was thinking in that moment when I told Eric, like, I'm not okay right now. I'm not okay." And he was like, "Okay, let's figure this out. Let's so that you are okay." And being okay doesn't just mean alive. It
Mhm.
means, like, okay. And also doesn't mean, like, not in pain. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you have to be, like, if you're just not okay, then you know that you're not okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, I haven't
So
had I'm sure it's something that when I give birth, we'll come back to this and I'll be like, yeah, like we'll be able to bond much more over it. Because right now I am very much on the outside looking in, and in my head I'm still fighting the whole like, we'll just do that, we'll just do that. Well, obviously I know like you can't just like you, especially when you're in that state, you really can't. And like you're saying, you go into it with these expectations, and I know I still have some of those expectations in my mind, and that's something that, you
but
know,
yeah.
when you haven't gone through it, it's hard to understand.
You just also have to be totally okay with it not happening,
Yeah.
which can be hard, but, like, prayer helps with that and trusting God. So that was something I did a lot prior to the birth, and I think that helped a lot of, like, "This is my plan. I'm expecting it to not go with plan. We'll see what happens, I guess, kind of just gonna be random, and we'll trust the Lord with whatever happens." But I think that helped with, like, the gradual, like, I didn't wanna have any drugs. Okay, well, now we're going to the hospital. Okay, well, now we're getting an epidural. Okay, well, now we're using a vacuum. Okay, well, now we're having a C-section, and it didn't all happen all at once, it happened over
Mm.
time, and I think that helped that it wasn't like a go from 0 to 100 and just trusting a little bit at a time. The C-section one was really hard because that was, like, the last thing you want, right? And I was looked at Eric, and he was about to lose it, so, of course, I lost it, and I was like, "This is terrible." But yeah, that's, like, a huge thing that, like, is and it's okay. So then there's also the thing of, like, grieving what your birth experience was too. So, like, a lot of people are like, I know, like, everyone's like, "The baby's okay and you're okay, so everything's fine." It's like, okay, yeah, but you can also it's still okay to be sad that your birth plan was completely ignored and that you were treated terribly and that the hospital staff wasn't amazing. Like, that's okay to still be sad about that. So, that's my advice.
I totally agree. Well, thank you so much, Hope, for
You're
sharing all of
welcome.
that. That was I was captivated the whole time, so I hope our listeners enjoy it as
Good. I
well.
hope it wasn't super boring.
No, it was great. We're gonna wrap up here. Give us
Comment
a
below.
like,
Tell
give
us
us
your
a yes, tell us your birth story in the comments below. Give us a rating, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a listen, share it, blah blah blah, all the things.
no negative reviews.
No negative reviews, and we will see you all in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.